So just share some of the outcomes we've had. We're now working with 4 cities. We've got a number of departments, a huge number of applications, startups. 20 startups have gone through the program. The one thing I haven't talked about is our training program. And the training program is really to help our government staff understand and learn more about the ways that Silicon Valley solves problems. So looking at agile development, human-centered design, really giving them those skill sets. And on the flip side, we also train the startups. How do you work with government? Who's your economic buyer? Some simple things, what's open data, what's RFP, how do you protest? A lot of those things that they don't learn up in startup school, right? If you go in the Valley and they teach you about how to fundraise, they teach you about marketing, they teach you about your product, but there's really no one telling startups, well, how do you work with government? And we're a huge market. Collectively, we spend over $150 billion just on technology, IT, in the US. And when you think about all of these other needs that we have, it's a much bigger pie. So I think this number is much higher now. It's actually probably like close to a dozen contracts have been secured with city agencies. Some money has been raised, some good outcomes here. And we've had a lot of interest from other cities globally as well. We're signing an MOU with Paris to replicate the program, Amsterdam and several other cities in Netherlands. They're, for whatever reason, really popular in the Netherlands. So we've got a huge pipeline, about 30 cities and government agencies at the federal, state, and local level want to be part of this program. And so we're excited. We've got a couple years left on the grant. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to really working on this. I think people would say, why are you working with Paris and all of these other cities? I'm sure you just want to go there. And so we're looking at how do we actually scale the program. And we're going to have 2 models. One is a very light touch, where we have a playbook, and that tells people about the RFP Bus, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, our contracts and templates, best practices, all those things so that they can create their program in their government agency as well. The higher touch one is the one that we're doing with the cities today. We all coordinate. So we are currently right now, for 2017, all collecting problems. They're due next week, and we're publishing them on March 6th. So we have to organize San Francisco and 3 other cities, and we're going to probably scale that to 10 cities or 10 government agencies this year as well. So a lot of coordination, a lot of trying to work with other folks, but everyone's been eager and supportive. So one of the things that we do talk about, and this is, I know this is sort of the title of the presentation, so I'll go into this a little bit more. So the RFP Bus was trying to solve for that problem of why it took 2 years for our airport to work with that startup. And so what we did is we did a few things. One is we said, hey, let's not do this pilot work and then try to go into a commercial arrangement and do an RFP afterwards. That's what we'd been doing, right? Pilot, so pre-RFP pilot, then an RFP, and then select and go forward. There's a number of issues with that problem, right, with that approach. So what we did is we actually moved the RFP in front of the program. So to actually participate in the program, you have to actually apply to an RFP, et cetera. Now, it's not your typical RFP, and that's why we didn't want to sort of put out a 40-page document or a 100-page document that's a PDF. What we did was we took 17 challenges or 17 RFPs, and we combined them into one RFP. And so that was, I think, one of the biggest innovations that we had put forward. And the reason that's important and why it's called the RFP Bus, it's similar to driving in an individual car. It's very resource intensive. It's not great for the environment. It's just a lot. But when you think about a bus, it's a lot more, it scales well, right? You can put a lot of people in a bus, and it takes up less space and less pollution. It's less resource intensive. The other thing about a bus is it's on a schedule, supposedly on a schedule, not always, right? But if you think about an RFP and how we in government sort of go through that process, you as a project manager want to buy something, you go through this process, and you allot on your schedule 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You actually don't know. You're guessing. And that can be a huge issue, right? The RFP Bus creates certainty. The bus is coming at this time, share your needs, and it's leaving at this time, and it's going to finish at this time. So you have a clear sense of when things are happening. And for us, we were able to manage 17 RFPs, which we think is some world record that no one's tracking. with 20% of one of my staff's time. And so she basically just sent out a whole bunch of emails saying, hey, please share all of your challenge statements by this date. We worked with them on the challenge statements. And it took them about a week, I would say, for the departments to be able to do their part of the RFP. And we asked the respondents, the startups, to spend less than an hour. We don't want you to spend more than an hour responding to this RFP. And so their experience was going onto the website, looking at the different cities' opportunities, and checking off, I'm interested in working with this city, and I'm interested in this opportunity. Then they answered a set of questions like you would an RFP, done online. If they wanted 2 opportunities, check them both off, answer both questions, and it would then go to a selection panel. This is done all online. So our staff did an RFP, sort of the selection review panel. We made sure that it followed all of our city rules, government rules. And we did that from start of solicitation to actual selection in 6 weeks. And so we did 17 RFPs in 6 weeks. And for us, that was a great testament that, hey, if we bundle all of these RFPs together, we make them into long, instead of going from very long prescriptive documents to brief challenge statements saying, hey, these are our needs, that has worked really well for everybody because it allows innovation to happen, allows people to be creative in how to respond to that need. And it's really leveled the playing field so that smaller players, mom and pop type respondents can really participate in this process. Before I go further, any questions about that? Yeah.
Did those challenge statements in that RFP, were they a challenge statement for a pilot, or did that RFP fulfill the entire project scope?
Entire project scope, yeah. So the question was the RFP for just the pilot period or the broader partnership or broader commercial arrangement? And it was for the commercial arrangement. So as they got selected into the program, they went through the RFP. They now go through a 16-week program, right, working with us to understand our needs, to develop that product or solution. And we're working with them very closely. It's not hands-off. So if a government agency is like, hey, here's our needs, we'll come back in 16 weeks and we'll get a demo and see. That's not how it works. It's a really tight collaboration. And that's why it's been really effective. And after those 16 weeks, we showcased that with our mayor and a whole bunch of people. We had 300 folks in San Francisco attend the event. But then after that, it's a try before you buy. So now they say, okay, Human Services Agency, we've got a great product that's meeting our needs. We know it. We've helped design it. It meets exactly our needs. We want to buy it. They now have to do the contract piece. They don't have to go through the RFP. Now, the contract piece for San Francisco, probably like many other cities and other state agencies, is burdensome. And that's our next step for 2017. Ours is, first of all, we did not have a software contract that recognized software as a service, so cloud software. It was still referring to CD-ROMs, so it was about 15 years out of date. And so we finally updated that. Go San Francisco, right? The Center of Innovation. And we're now trying to go from a 50-page document to a 10-page document that's actually accessible by normal people, plain language, instead of all this legal jargon. So our lawyers don't want to do that, so I have to go and legislate that through our mayor or other elected officials. So that's the route I'm taking now. They're saying, hey, I can't help you. There's all these rules that we have to have these boilerplate pieces. And those pieces just add up and add up. They've been made over a number of decades, right? And they're good things, but they're not always applicable to software contracts. For example, we have things in there about Brazilian hardwoods. I'm not sure, we all love the rainforest. I'm supportive of the rainforest and keeping that. It's important to our world, but it doesn't really relate. And so there's a number of those sort of social policies and other policies that we want to start addressing. So that's our goal. And we want to share that as well so that other cities and government agencies, the state level, can leverage that. Any other questions about the RFP bus or the process? So yeah, just those are the sort of real benefits. Just the approach we took was challenge statements, RFP, then pilot. Technology was really important. We wouldn't have been able to manage 17 RFPs by hand. So having everything online, that people could do the review and scoring online, all of it documented, was really, really critical for our success. And we talked about just these fixed schedules. And so other cities and government agencies are following suit. So we've published this and publicized it. And so San Leandro and West Sacramento are adopting it, and we want to get it out there more broadly because we think it's really important that we change how we partner with our vendor community. Obviously, the bigger vendors know how to navigate these processes, and that's great, but we need to make it equitable and fair for everybody. And I think that's really important for innovation to happen. I think it's important for local economic development. You can imagine your own community if you're in Sacramento here. That's why West Sacramento, a city of 30,000 people, is really interested in the program. They've got some great talent locally. Hey, can you solve our own needs in city government? You live here in West Sacramento, you can build some great solutions. We're a great partner. So that's the end of my presentation. A little bit of time left, 15 minutes left. I don't know if there's any further questions, thoughts, or insights. Yeah.
So how were you able to do that new RFP process within your existing procurement rules?
So our existing procurement rules, so the question was, how can we do this RFP bus within the existing RFP framework and legal rules that we have? And if you look at it closely and you think about how RFPs are designed, they're really to ensure that we have a competitive solicitation, a competitive process, that the scoring is done in a objective way, et cetera. And we've met all of those criteria. And I don't think, and I could be wrong, I haven't looked at legislation for RFPs and procurement in other state and local agencies, but I doubt that it's so prescriptive that you have to do an RFP at this time, or you can't do a pilot after an RFP. My assumption is that there's some flexibility there, and that's what we're leveraging, is that there's some flexibility. And we were just being creative and saying, hey, let's just change how we're doing the process. I met another government agency at the federal level at the DoD. They have an outpost in, I think, San Jose near NASA Ames. And they're looking at emerging technologies like drones and I'm sure robots and a whole bunch of other cool stuff, or maybe not cool stuff. And they've gone from solicitation to contract, RFP, everything contract in 60 days. So 0 to 60, they've been able to do that. And I've got a new goal in my mind too. I was like, wow, if they can do that in such a large organization, can we do that in San Francisco as well? So that's our goal for 2018, is to go from solicitation to contract in 60 days. And we think we can do it. Right now, what we're doing is we're doing the RFP, and then we're doing the piloting, and then we're doing the contracting, right? So we're going to do the RFP up front, and then the contracts. Well, you've been selected. Let's do the contract before you pilot. The only piece we're not going to negotiate is the pricing and the quantity. So that we'll leave that at the end. Hey, if you don't want anything, that's okay. Didn't work out. Didn't meet your needs. But if you do want something, everything's been negotiated, and you have full authority just to negotiate that last piece, just the number of widgets and how much you're going to pay for those widgets. So that's our next chapter. We're also working with some great partners. We are working with NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. They're a nonprofit, globally based, but based in San Francisco, and their goal and mission is to support entrepreneurship globally. So they're working with countries all over the world, and they're helping us on the training and building capacity side. Our goal is to get this out of the mayor's office of San Francisco and become its own independent program. It doesn't make sense for us to really push this much further, and so if anyone has ideas about where a future home might lie, let me know. I'm interested in those conversations. If there isn't any more questions, I'll let you all go early. I know it's been a long day for many of you, and some of you might have to beat traffic. I know I do. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.